Being in various puzzle-ish communities over the years, I know of a lot of amazing works that are really obscure, and one of the best pieces of interactive mystery novels is basically unknown in some French niche subculture. The game is not French, but it's the reason you can't even find it in search results. The game I'm talking about is called Curiosity of a Turnabout. The one playthrough of this game is like 13 hours long to beat it. The gameplay one-liner I'll use to describe it is that the year is 2416, everyone has a specific magic spell, and you spot contradictions in people's testimonies, then theorize and deduce how the culprit did it. This is an interactive murder mystery, so you have the list of evidence in here, and you can read all the details at any point. You also have the basics of spells and the profiles, and you can read about everyone's spells. There's also elements that make this just seem impossible in a normal mystery standpoint, like the victim who, of course, this is a murder mystery. The victim can see the future. 10 seconds of the future. We also play as a character that can combine any two things, like literally any two objects, but it does have a limit of one combination at a time. Another thing that makes this scenario just like an impossible seeming crime is the prosecutor is a literal living lie detector. And there's also two detectives in the list who have spells that should even, in theory, make it even harder for the culprit to get away with it. One can see spell traces, and the other can see blood, color, and glow uniquely depending on the person. Of course, the scenario actually holds like many layers of deception. One of them that is like actually extremely obvious, like already in the investigation, so this is not a spoiler. This guy, Damon Maxwell, which totally doesn't remind you of any different puzzle game that I've been playing recently as well, has the ability to freeze water, but has to touch the container to do so. But this guy also has the same spell. Even though the spell book that you get early on literally tells you that the spells are supposed to be unique. And let's just say that some people may be lying by omission or not telling the whole story about their spells. I gotta say though, some of these spells are not as good as some others. Like this is one of the detectives that see spell traces but can only see black and white, which is just extremely sad. Now, I do want to show off the pointing out contradictions part of the gameplay, but to point out the elephant in the room to some extent, this game is created in basically what is a fan game engine based on Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney's gameplay. So it's based on the same gameplay mechanics and foundation of evidence and pointing out contradictions through cross-examination. Like you can see, this person is making a statement of 1 p.m. of a time of death, and there's evidence that says it's 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. There have been so many other amazing fan games made in this engine that I would honestly love to talk about, but I highlight this one both because it's highly unique in its magic-based premise, and you don't need any of Ace Attorney's knowledge and lore to know about it and experience it. Although it might spoil you in the sense that this game is more densely packed in complex things, but I figure for someone who hasn't played Ace Attorney at all, I should just go through a very simple testimony here. The evidence speaks for itself, really. The victim and defendant left the town as a group. This is evident from the gate records. So, I mean, by the way, I cannot do a playthrough on this game because I basically already know all about it. It should be obvious that I'm speaking in, like, from the future here. But indeed, we do have gate records. They headed for the west ruins and explored them. We have a witness to back this up. Then the defendant launched a deadly attack against Mr. Ronos. Poor fool never saw it coming. Afterwards, he tried to best hide evidence, but it was no use. Okay, this one is easy. Badge, okay, that's just a meme. You do have a sidekick to meme at you from time to time. Okay. So this actually, you should know the contradiction, like even though I didn't show the majority of the evidence. Now, one convention that you need to know about is this press button right here. This is just my personal opinion. Well, okay, I should explain like what the actual mechanic is first. You basically get a bunch of lines out about asking questions about it. And there's like multiple lines of dialogue every time you press, so like, what evidence do you really have? You didn't even have the resources to check the weapon for fingerprints with you. Blah, blah. So like, usually, pressing gives you no information that's actually useful. Yes, I'm gonna not say anything for a bunch of seconds. I mean, like, that's the problem with this. Like, there's like 20 lines for every press. It's like, in a different world, that would be like a hint system or something, in my opinion. But no, there's some testimonies where you must press that specific statement, meaning you basically have to press every testimony. And that's just like how it works for every one of these types of fan games or entries. But anyway, the contradiction in there is not a press or anything like that. Anyway, I'm going to point out the contradiction in this set of statements now. It's on here. Poor fool never saw it coming. We're gonna go here, and like, the victim can see the future. So to mark that, we press present on a profile or a piece of evidence and do it. The first contradiction response is kind of funny as well, because it's like, Linus, before you go on, the character's like explaining the contradiction, but there's actually a big problem here about this explanation. You need to stop right there. You've got your facts wrong. Mr. Ronos was quite the crafty individual, if maybe a bit too paranoid, and would like to give the public the wrong idea about the nature of the spell. Like, even from the very beginning, people are not telling the entire truths about their spells, and in this case, the victim was actually able to rewind into the past. Sounds pretty broken. So this updates the character's description to rewinding time, but it can't be used to push a little bit further in the past. Now, this video is still going to be spoiler-free, but I do want to show this off. There is a custom mechanic in this. This is just some great gameplay story integration here. So, you're playing as the character with elementary combination. You can combine any two things, which means that you can combine two statements in the testimony. And that can show, like, contrasting things, like information or cause and effect. It's actually so cool that, like, custom mechanics can be even implemented in this, which is basically like just a visual novel engine. You can see, like, in theory, this method could reveal something the defendant implied but not explicitly state. As an aside, this game also gave me a lot more appreciation for the cross-examination music that is used, which is also fan-made. But although it's not, like, made by the creator of this or anything, but it actually uses a lot of fan assets, but I feel like I should talk about that later in the video. I'm gonna put this upside down due to spoilers, but there's another awesome moment with the combination in testimony that I thought was great, that you can read if you want to read upside down. Here's some stuff I would also like to mention, even though I couldn't find a place to put it. There's a lot of great world building, especially like in the investigation section. Not all aspects are used, but it really gives a sense of a world that has a lot in it, and there's past events that come into play as well. You get to see a lot of the village as well in the investigation section. I feel like there's some justification in comparing this game to Ghost Trick, which is another like 12-hour long game that has some supernatural plot elements as puzzle mechanics, and has gameplay story integration and tons of tricks. This is the game that I've mentioned in a video before. Funnily enough, there's a Ghost Trick fan case that's made in this engine. Unfortunately, not finished. Probably will not be, but it's made by the host of the theme competition of the fan game that I was just talking about, as you can see here. Even this is also suffering from digital decay because most of the music is now no longer on YouTube. Unfortunately, like so much other stuff online these days, there is digital decay. Some of the oldest, like, fan games have, like, completely missing music and images. This one doesn't really have that much, but there's still a freaking photo bucket watermark on the blood stain. Also, for some reason, the sounds are very loud in browser and there's no volume slider. How is there still none? You know, on this subject, not that I have any influence at all in this, it would be so cool if cases could have custom style sheets for different color schemes. There's some typos. The foreshadowing and twists are great, but there is one twist that probably isn't as fairly foreshadowed as it could be. I honestly save scum a lot in these types of games, and I feel like this is gonna sound way worse if you never played a game like this. Like, oh, the people who play this game cheat at it? No way. But, like, you don't want to suffer through game over dialogue. And this site lets you spam saves even more than the official games do. So this case has gone through gameplay testing in a way that allows for a good amount of alternative non-penalty routes, so even though I don't actually know, I would probably say this fan case does better with the penalty stuff and the logic stuff that you probably need to save scum less. Wow, more text walls. Maybe we should have become a game journalist. Wait, no, definitely don't do that. Anyway, this text wall is basically an open question because experiencing all of these great fan cases have this very weird property that the experience may get worse the more ones that you play. Due to things I explain in the text wall, I'm not sure any other game or experience really has that. It's very distinct from the sense of getting bored or used to a game, in the more general sense. Some fan case authors have later made separate mystery novel experiences that are not interactive, which is kind of funny because in some ways that is a de-evolution, although there's definitely some more unique things about the other format. I like how I call another format when often it's just like a book. But there have occasionally been jokes about what if we improve this by adding like an evidence record and testimonies. I do want to make a mystery game of my own one day. Like, I have so many genre subversive ideas that also have puzzle merit, and have made tons of music. I mean, the music is mostly for my own entertainment at this point, unfortunately. And I'm really confident that they would be more satisfying moments if they were actually produced in the context that I imagined them to be. My fiction writing ability is not up to par. Also, I lack drawing and art talent. Finally, the inventor of this game, who, by the way, has been writing stuff for this site and stuff for like 14 years at this point, has released this year another even longer full mystery novel, interactive on the same site, which was made 7 years after the fan game that I was talking about for the majority of the video. Because it's recent, I was actually able to record it and spend the effort to, well, I'm not even sure when I'm gonna post it because it's ineligible for monetization. I mean, it has, of course, it's using music that would trip up a content ID. Also, Russians can't watch it. Also, don't believe that scheduling date. I literally don't know when that's gonna happen. I really don't know. And who is gonna watch an 11-hour? I mean, like, even if I split into parts, it's gonna take over the whole channel. As I'm recording this video, that one Let's Player has finally finished recording that. Maybe I should say finished posting it. They're, I believe, mostly unedited playthroughs, like 20 hours, because of course it is. Anyway, to sum it up, if you enjoy those types of games that have like these deep systematic explorations of things and interesting / cursed interactions, here's a full game with it. Goodbye.